A few years ago, there was a wealthy couple who had 2 young children, a boy and a girl. The family lived in a large house in Newport Beach, California. After taking care of their kids all week, the mother and father decided that they needed a break, so they booked a table for dinner at a nice restaurant. That evening, they called a teenage girl they knew and arranged for her to come over and babysit their children while they were out. When the babysitter arrived, the parents told her to fix supper for the kids and put them to bed. "After that, you can just watch TV and help yourself to anything in the fridge," said the father. "And if you wouldn't mind," said the mother, "could you watch TV in our bedroom? The kids have been having nightmares recently, so if you hear them crying, you can just go in and calm them down." The babysitter happily agreed, and the parents left for their dinner date. The girl gave the children some milk and cookies, then ushered them upstairs to bed. She started to read them a bedtime story, and before long, the little boy and girl were fast asleep. After tucking them in, she switched off the lights and went to watch TV. When the babysitter walked into the parents' bedroom and sat down, she noticed that there was a creepy-looking clown statue standing in the corner of the room. She tried to ignore it, but it looked so eerie and disturbing that it sent a chill down her spine. She felt as though its eyes were staring straight at her while she watched TV. As time passed, the babysitter started to feel more and more uneasy about the clown statue. Whenever she glanced at it, she got the unsettling feeling that it had moved, ever so slightly. Finally, the clown statue began to freak her out so much that she couldn't handle it any longer. She decided to go downstairs and phone the parents. When she dialed the number they had left for her, the mother answered. "Hi, it's me," said the babysitter. "Everything's fine. The kids are fast asleep in bed, but I was just wondering, would be okay if I watch TV downstairs?" "Of course," replied the father. "But why?" "I know it sounds silly," laughed the girl, "but the clown statue is really creeping me out." "The clown statue?" asked the father. "Yeah, the clown statue in your bedroom," the girl replied. The phone went silent for a moment. "Listen to me very carefully," said the father. "Take the children and get out of the house. We will call the police. Go, now." "What's wrong?" asked the girl. The father gulped and replied, "We don't have a clown statue." For a second, the babysitter just stood there stunned. Then she dropped the phone and raced upstairs and grabbed the children. Carrying one under each arm, she raced downstairs again and fled out into the street. Huddled on the sidewalk, comforting the 2 children, the babysitter looked up at the bedroom window and saw something that made her scream out in horror. Peeking through a gap in the curtains was the white, painted face of a clown. It stared at her for a moment, then sank back into the darkness. Within minutes, the police arrived and cautiously entered the house. In the upstairs bedroom, they found a man dressed in a clown suit. When they arrested him, they found a knife concealed in his costume. The clown turned out to be a mentally disturbed midget who was a convicted murderer and cold-blooded killer. The evil man had been stalking the family for months, lurking in their attic during the daytime and coming out to sneak around the house at night. For weeks, the children had been complaining about a clown statue that stood in their room and watched them sleep, but the parents just dismissed this as nightmares. There was a 7-year-old girl named Molly who absolutely loved dolls. She collected every doll she could and displayed them on a shelf in her bedroom. She wasn't doing very well in school, so her parents told her that if her grades improved, they would buy her a new doll as a reward. Molly was motivated to try her best, and a few weeks later, her report card arrived from school. She had studied so hard that she managed to get straight A's. Her mother and father were delighted and decided to make good on their promise. The next morning, Molly's mother brought her to the mall so they could go shopping for her gift. As they passed by the window of a second-hand toy store, the little girl grabbed her mother's arm and asked if they could go inside. When they entered the shop, the woman told her daughter she could choose any item she wanted, no matter what price it was. Molly wandered up and down the aisles of the dusty old toy shop until she eventually came to the doll section. On the top shelf, partially obscured by dusty old boxes, was something that immediately caught her eye. It was a clown doll with red hair, yellow eyes, and a big red nose. The clown's wizened face was twisted into a malicious grimace, and its teeth were sharp and jagged. One of the clown's gnarled hands was clenched in a fist, but the other was holding up 3 fingers. Molly turned to her mother and squealed, "Mommy, this is the one I want." "Are you sure?" asked her mother incredulously. "But it's so ugly and creepy." The little girl nodded excitedly. "I want it, I want it, I want it." "Well, all right then," said her mother, as she took the clown doll down from the shelf and brought it over to the counter. The owner of the store took one look at the doll and said, "I'm sorry, madam. That clown doll is not for sale." "What? Why not?" exclaimed the surprised woman. The owner refused to answer. The mother looked down and saw her daughter's eyes welling up with tears. She began arguing with the shopkeeper and offered him more and more money, but he kept refusing. Eventually, she said, "I'll pay you $100, and held out the money in front of him. The owner's eyes grew wide. He hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the money greedily and said, "Okay, you can have it." He put the clown doll in a bag and gave it to the mother. As Molly and her mother walked out of the shop, the owner called out after them. "Just one thing," he said, "never leave your daughter alone with that doll." The mother and daughter didn't pay any attention to him and left, happy with their purchase. When they got home, Molly immediately rushed into the living room. The girl was overjoyed with her present and spent the rest of the day playing happily with her clown doll, while her mother watched television. As the little girl played with the doll, she wondered why it was holding up 3 fingers. Later that night, when Molly went to bed, she placed the doll on the top shelf in her bedroom. Her mother kissed her goodnight and shut the bedroom door. Bright and early the next morning, the mother was cooking breakfast and called out to Molly to wake her up. When she didn't receive an answer after calling her for the 3rd time, the mother began to get worried. She decided to go upstairs and get her daughter out of bed. When she walked into Molly's bedroom, she was horrified to find her daughter lying dead on the floor in a pool of blood. Her throat had been sliced open, and her eyes had been poked out. There was a sharp knife embedded in her chest. For a few moments, Molly's mother couldn't believe what she was seeing. But when she looked down and saw the clown doll sitting beside her daughter's mutilated body, she began screaming in horror. The clown doll was holding up 4 fingers. In the heart of the bustling city, excitement rippled through the streets as news spread of the arrival of the mysterious circus troupe, known only as the Carnival of Shadows. With promises of enchanting performances and dazzling spectacles, the anticipation among the townsfolk reached a fever pitch. But little did they know, the arrival of the circus heralded something far more sinister than mere entertainment. On the eve of the performance, strange occurrences began to unfold. Whispers slithered through the night air, tales of dark figures lurking in the shadows, their eyes gleaming with an eerie luminescence. Yet, despite the unsettling rumors, the citizens eagerly awaited the grand opening of the circus, oblivious to the lurking horrors. As dawn broke on the day of the performance, the city awoke to find itself cloaked in an ominous shroud of fog. The air hummed with an unnatural chill, and an eerie silence descended upon the streets. Still undeterred by the foreboding atmosphere, the townsfolk flocked to the circus grounds, their curiosity outweighing their apprehension. Underneath the sprawling tent of the Carnival of Shadows, the audience marveled at the kaleidoscope of colors and the melodious strains of music that filled the air. But as the first act took the stage, a palpable tension gripped the crowd. The clowns, with their painted faces and exaggerated grins, cavorted across the stage in a macabre dance. Yet, with each passing moment, their movements grew increasingly frenzied, their laughter ringing hollow and discordant. The once cheerful melodies warped into a haunting cacophony, sending shivers down the spines of the audience. Then, as if summoned by some unseen force, the shadows themselves began to stir. From the depths of the darkness emerged twisted figures clad in tattered clown costumes, their faces obscured by grotesque masks. With manic glee, they descended upon the unsuspecting crowd, their intentions veiled in malice. Panic erupted as chaos engulfed the circus grounds. The audience fled in terror, pursued by the malevolent horde of clown-like creatures that seemed to materialize from the very shadows themselves. Desperate cries filled the air as the city became a battleground between light and darkness. In the aftermath of the chows, the Carnival of Shadows vanished without a trace, leaving behind nothing but whispers and nightmares. The city, once vibrant and alive, now stood as a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the memory of that fateful day lingered like a curse upon the city. For in the shadows, the Carnival of Shadows awaited, biding its time until it could once again unleash its terror upon the unsuspecting world.